Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Tom Allen Stevens from BOFIN. So it's the British On-Farm Innovation Network. I started it about 3 years ago. It's to represent farmers who do their own on-farm trials. And it's all about sharing the information as well. That knowledge has value, and it only has value when it's shared. So that's what we're about. And we're also looking for those farmers who take part in these trials to be paid for what they do. We've got 7 projects underway at the moment, but they're either underway or about to get started. So I'm just going to tell you about one of them today, which is about slug control. So it's slimers. This is strategies leading to improved management and enhanced resilience against slugs. So we're here with Kerry McDonald-Howard, who's just joined the Slimers project from CHAP, and delighted to have you with us, Kerry.
Thank you for having me.
One of the aspects of the project, as I'm sure you know, is bringing on the SlugBot work,
yeah.
which is all about using robots to find slugs and then zapping them, treating them with nematodes.
Yeah.
Tell me about these nematodes. You know, what are they actually? Are they sort of in the environment already?
They're naturally occurring in the soil already, so they're part of the microbiome. What's happening is there's not enough of them to actually keep the slug populations lower. So we are adding them as an alternative control to keep the populations of the slugs down. So when the nematodes are applied to the soil, they seek out the slug. They enter a slug through the back of the mantle. And then go inside, parasite the slug dies, and then they feed on the decaying slug. This is a lovely talk.
Right.
Sorry. And then they reproduce and feed on the bacteria and reproduce on the slug, and then go back into the soil and find another host.
Okay. Now, I imagine that if you were to treat, so let's say you've got a patch in your field that's full of slugs, and if you treat that patch with nematodes, how long will the nematodes last and do their job?
Well, that's one of the elements that we're looking at within the project, because we're looking at the survival of the nematode within different soil types. A more nutrient value soil, the nematode would survive for longer periods. The soil would also obviously stay hydrated for longer, so the nematodes are more happy. And they actually survive for a longer period in these more nutrient-based soils, for a longer period at higher temperatures.
That's one of the big aspects of this project, obviously, and the trials that we're doing at the moment, is trying to, I think Keith already knows what soil factors there are that makes slugs gather in patches. So we're just putting that to the test with our 27 farmers.
When I go out looking for slugs, I know what I'm looking for, what's the ideal conditions. So,
and so it's your suspicion that it's the same conditions that are good for nematodes as well?
Yeah, and that would make logical sense.
Makes absolute logical sense.
And that's one consideration. Farmers, gardeners, anyone using the nematodes as an application to control slugs, they have to consider the soil type. So if you're going to be applying nematodes to a soil that they're not going to survive on, and the patch location shows that the slugs, there's no point. You're wasting money. But if you've got the precision, which Slimers is leading us towards, that would be amazing. It will sort out that problem entirely.
No, so what do you think?
It'd be very cost effective.
Yeah, one of the major elements of this project, Kerry, is working with farmers. And we've got, as I said, we've got 27 Slug Sleuths out there at the moment doing the monitoring. Is this something that you're looking forward to, or fills you with dread?
No, it's very exciting doing that, because the one thing I've noticed with working in academia and then even in this industry, there's that gap between knowledge of what's really out there. And I grew up in a smallholding in South Africa on a vegetable farm, and there's the traditional knowledge, other things you're learning, and there's nothing like being out there actually doing it yourselves. Even in my own work with my different experiments, I know being out there in the field is very different to the work in the lab. You've got to open that gap, and actually working with real-time farmers in different variable types of land, so the different types of soils, the different types of crops, and the different way they farm themselves is going to give us so much more variable data that we can actually feed into the AI system for science.
We're here with Charles Paynter, who is one of the Slug Sleuths taking part in our Slimers project. So nice to see you, Charles.
Nice to see you.
So tell me, Charles, I haven't been to your farm, what's the farm name?
So it's Rifle Range Farm. So we're a typical heavy land farm. So we know all about slugs. Had plenty of them over the years.
Right. And whereabouts is that?
That's in North Bedfordshire.
North Bedfordshire. So how many hectares do you?
That's 220 hectares, but we farm in conjunction with a neighbour who does contract farms the farm for us.
Yeah, what's your interest in slugs then?
My interest was sort of peaked straight away because we've lost obviously some of the control methods that we used to have, which used to help keep slugs in bay. Ferric phosphate is difficult to know how well that works, but going forward we're going to need to find other ways to control pests and diseases. The idea of farmers helping with this kind of research struck a chord with me because I think that we quite often read research and you think, yes, you can immediately see on a farm scale it's not that straightforward. So really we need to be, if we want to know how to face the future, we really need to be part of this collaborative effort.
Now, you've been taking part in trials.
Yes, I have, yes.
Haven't you? Yeah. So, and that's the 1 hectare grid of 100 traps.
That's right, and it also incorporates some beetle traps as well.
That's right, yes.
So what I've been finding is, generally speaking, I've done it over 2 days and done slugs one day and then beetles the following day.
Right.
Just for the practicalities of it.
Yeah. So are you finding many beetles then?
I'm finding a lot of beetles. I'm not sure I'm finding enough beetles that would control slugs, but who knows? I don't know. It's just guesswork. But I'm finding a lot of beetles. I haven't done a trial since, well, it'll be interesting after this frosty period just to see what's happened. But not only beetles, but all sorts of things actually in there, whole range of things. Flies, a lot of flies in those traps as well, underneath the covers. So, and slugs as well. So slugs seem to be everywhere. But
so and then the traps. How are you finding the monitoring of the traps?
Actually, once you get your eye in and you get the practicalities of it sorted out, you get a bowl and get the right size container with your liquid to replace and get I think using an app on your phone is pivotal. It's you just got to remember to keep one hand clean.
Right, yes,
otherwise
of course.
you're smearing and you need a cover on your phone. But yeah, once you've got those practicalities nailed down, it's quite a straightforward process, and the app works well, the Husk app works well.
Right. Well, it'd be interesting to see how the data works out from the beetles. But the other aspect is the slugs, of course. And so tell me, I mean, what's your crop looking like? Is it
it's been a bit. Okay? It's established fine, and I've been putting up with a reasonable slug. I'm right on the tipping point. It had slug bait originally. With drilling and then afterwards, but I didn't want to put it. I mean, it was right on the threshold, so there's been damage, and it shows up quite a lot now because the crops sort of died back a bit. Because very often slug damage tends to look worse sometime after it's happened rather than immediately.
Yeah, especially if the crop holds back a bit.
So, and in one part of the trial, there's more than others. So there's definitely an area in there, I would say. On one side where I would say slug activity is looking at the crop looks worse.
So you have had some patches.
Yes, develop. Definitely within the trial, across the trial, there's differences. I've noticed in the crop. I think that's the thing to say. I don't know about how it will show on the actual trial,
on the actual data,
the analysis. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's going to be the interesting aspect of this. You know, once Keith gets this incredible amount of data through, and then analysing the data and seeing whether it actually tallies with what you've seen in the field. Oh well, no. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and having a good day at CropTec.
Yeah, I am. Very interesting.
No, well, thank you very much, Charles.
Yeah, thank you.
Listen, I must come to your farm. It'd be fascinating to come and have a look around.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.